Hello again. Welcome to SEC Basketball Predictions here at Southeastern 16. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell and Max Barr. Today's game, a preview of Florida heading to Neville Arena, where teams go to die. 3 Central on ESPN2 for one of the bigger and more anticipated games of the year. We do not have a line as we are doing this on Thursday morning. However, looks like Tigers will be about 8-point favorites playing on their home court against a Florida team that is one of the more talented bunches in the country. Max Barr, let's start this off with the pass to the elbow to you to get it started. What are our initial thoughts on the Gators and the Tigers?
Speaking of passes to the elbow, Chris, I hope that we have both point guards available here.
Yeah.
Talking about Mr. Walter Clayton Jr. It should be noted that he was a questionable tag going into the midweek. It wasn't out. He was not out. It was questionable. Game time decision, didn't play. So I feel good about his chances. But that is obviously storyline number one right at the top for me. If Florida doesn't have Walter Clayton here, obviously things get even tougher to what is already a tough task. But I think this is probably where you guys are going to go eventually, but I'm excited for this front court matchup. I think, Chris, it was you that asked the question, does Florida have the best 3-man front court the other day? And we were like, Auburn, and it's like, if you're talking about that conversation, you got these two teams right here.
Yeah, it's hard to top Janai Broom, Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell right now, but Florida's probably the next closest in terms of their front court and what they've been able to do with that rotation we talked about all season long. And I think that probably, if it's not Clayton being injured or something like that, that's probably going to be the story of this game, I would think, just based on the fact that we know these are two high-octane offensive teams, two good defensive teams. Where is the game going to be won? I think that, again, to me, it probably comes down to the rebounding battle, which means the front court is probably the story here, and which of these teams can, get those second chance opportunities if you're not getting great looks based on how good they are defensively. Florida, as we know, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. Auburn not far behind. So,
yeah, when I look at the KenPom page, I always look at where the red and the green meet. There's just not a lot of red or pink for either of these teams. I mean, the one thing that might be Auburn's weakness is putting other teams on the line. It's a physical team. Florida doesn't get to the line an extraordinary amount, so I don't know how much that factors in. I think the rebounding part is one thing we're looking at. We've talked about how great Florida is on the glass. You guys just brought it up. Auburn not great at affecting or protecting the defensive glass. I guess when we're looking at things that if we look at this and say there was an upset in Neville Arena, which rarely happens, that would be the thing to circle.
Yeah, you can just kind of look through. There's a little bit of a trend here, and now the South Carolina game, I'm talking about that 1-point road win that Florida was able to grab. That kind of throws a little bit of a rut in the trend here. But looking at Alex Condon's point totals, he scores in double digits in conference play, Florida wins. He does not score in double digits. They're 1-3 with that one win being that 1-point win at South Carolina. So, I mean, it's one last second play away from being Condon, you scoring in single digits, a.k.a. Florida's not getting the offensive production from the front court that it needs. That's directly resulting in losses right now.
Well, I think there's an interesting kind of trend here, and it's not surprising, but I think if you look at some of the numbers, we always kind of look at, all right, where's the team getting their points from, right? And their point distribution, SEC play, all this other stuff. I think Florida is one of those teams that we know they have guys who can knock down shots from the perimeter. And that's why we talk about, I think this game's going to be won in terms of how the front court plays out. Because you look at Florida's shooting performances on the road, again, probably not unlike many other teams. And I think that's what I'm most interested to see with Auburn defensively. Florida went 4 of 27 from three against Tennessee on the road. Lost that game, as we know. That's 15%. At South Carolina, 8 of 24, 33%. No, that's okay. Arkansas, 8 of 28, 29%. And then, the game at Kentucky, they went 12 of 34 for 35%, but that may have a little bit something to do with the defense. So I think there's kind of some interesting things there in terms of what's Auburn going to do defensively, because it is kind of a Florida team that can score in a variety of ways. And I think it's almost like, hey, just maybe play the percentages, try to let them beat you from the perimeter, and then kind of filter guys into the paint to where you can block shots with Broom or Cardwell or whoever. So, yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things that I'm interested in seeing here, because, as you guys noted, Florida's just not a team that gets to the free throw line a lot. And I think if you're looking to score points, which I think you're going to have to score points against Auburn, where those points come from is going to be interesting to me, just given all the challenges I think that Auburn presents on the defensive side.
Guys, I'm trying to find cracks in Auburn. And like, you have to squint to really find. There was a little 4-game stretch mid-January where Auburn wasn't scoring the way it was. The South Carolina game, the Georgia game on the road. Georgia's obviously tough in that building. The Tennessee game in Auburn, that was a real rock fight. But since then, Auburn has gotten back to just high-scoring games, 87 points, 92 points, 98 points against LSU, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, respectively. I mean, I'm guessing maybe if Auburn's off on the threes and they've got so many guys who can really shoot it efficiently, that's a recipe for a Florida upset. But I'm not sure how realistic that is. I mean, I guess any team can miss threes on a given night. And look, I'm not trying to act like Florida's just this helpless team going in there with no chance to win and is completely overmatched. That's not true at all. Florida's, I think, in my mind, a top 5 team in the country. I'm just speaking to how awesome what we are seeing in Auburn is. The fact is, it's a team that just does a little bit of everything, or a lot of everything, to be more accurate, and a lot of that includes three-point shooting from the wings. And I think that if it's going to go in Florida's favor, it's going to have to get a cold night from some of Auburn's shooters. And Florida does have the ability defensively to get out on some of those guys too.
Guys, we have not been talking about, well, I guess we have kind of as of late, maybe this past week or so, but Auburn's 3-point defense, guys, they haven't let up double-digit threes the whole season.
Man.
And in fact, it's not only like, oh, they're just that's a kind of a cherry-picked stat, and it's just like teams have had 8 and 9 against them like 10 times. They've only let up more than 7 threes 4 times this whole year. It's 7 or under in 18 of their games. I mean, you're just that length on the perimeter, the rotation of fresh bodies, that what they do with that defense, and kind of working it from the inside out with Broom and Cardwell, just making life absolute mayhem inside. No one, guys, nobody is shooting efficiently from outside against Auburn right now.
Well, and that's where my concern for Florida comes in. Is I want to see how they get their points, because even if it's like, hey, this may be one of those rare games where they get to the free throw line a lot, they're not shooting it well from the free throw line. They're a pretty poor free throw shooting team. So, I mean, look, they're 71% on the season, but if you just filter that to SEC play, they're shooting 67.9%. That's next to last. Only A&M is shooting a worse percentage from the free throw line. So I think that's, again, for me, I want to see offensively, if Florida's going to win this game, they're going to have to do some things against Auburn that teams just haven't done against Auburn this season. And I think that's where, if you're trying to predict how the game plays out, how do you craft that kind of scenario? Like we said, Florida's one of the teams that can do it just because they're talented enough and they are a top 10 team in the country. But it's just kind of, do I think this is going to be 53-51 again like Tennessee did? No, because I think that was just clearly Tennessee was able to sort of get the game playing out the way they needed it to have a chance at the end. Florida, it's going to have to be a little bit different in terms of their path, I think.
I think I know where we're all going, but let's get to picks and final analysis here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going Auburn here at home. And I think the only way that I think, okay, how does Florida go in there and do this? I think you got to have one of those rare games when Chinyelu doesn't pick up, 4 or 5 fouls, which when you look at his SEC play, I think he's only got 2 games when he hasn't gotten 4 or 5 fouls. And if I'm wrong by a game, I'm wrong by a game there. But he's got to stay out of foul trouble. It's got to be a perfect game. Everyone's got to play their piece. Where you have Elijah Martin, he can take out a guard, but which one, right? And then who else is just left to have their night? I'm going Auburn here at home. I know that Bruce was saying that this is a real tough matchup and Florida can present some things that other teams can't. So I know they're going to be ultra focused for this, and they respect Florida like they should. I don't think they're going to take them lightly here. Go Tigers at home.
Yeah, Max, you started this off with, I think, one of the more important discussion points. That's Walter Clayton. And I watched the Vanderbilt game. He was in street clothes. So I don't know if that was just a calculated, hey, we can win this game without him, with our talent, and we're just going to not have the temptation to play him with Auburn looming this weekend, or if that was hey, he's really, really banged up. He did look like he turned his ankle against Tennessee in that disaster in Knoxville. So I would like a little truth serum on the Clayton situation if we could get it. I don't think it would really change my mind, though. Statistically, the way to beat Auburn is to get to the foul line. Florida just doesn't do that well in league play. In fact, Auburn is dead last in the league in terms of free throw attempts to field goal attempts in SEC play. Blake brought up the free throw shooting number. That was a key part of what I'm thinking in this one. Talent-wise, I can see a path to Florida winning because it's that good. But when you break the numbers down and you know how tough Auburn is in that building, it becomes really difficult to see. Give me the Tigers also.
Interesting. Auburn fans out there begging for me to pick the upset here to keep the Southeastern 16 Kiss of Death away. But I will tell you this. Florida has, remember, played, 22 games this season? They've still only played 5 true road games all year long. And think about the mixed bag this is. A 13-point win at Florida State, a 106-100 loss at Kentucky, a 71-63 win at Arkansas, a 70-69 win at South Carolina, and then a 64-44 loss at Tennessee. What a variety of results that is. Yeah. So that's a mixed bag, I think we would call it. I'll tell you what this, though. Auburn has not been a mixed bag at home this season. And so they've been about as consistent as it gets. And so I think for me, how do you not pick Auburn here? But I do think if we're trying to find maybe the teams, and as Bruce Pearl said, matchup-wise, that could scare you if you're Auburn. Just from a personnel standpoint, there's probably maybe not 2 or more teams in the SEC that would scare me a bit if I'm Auburn, more so than Florida. But, again, I just think Florida has to get there in a way that we just haven't seen anyone be able to get there with Auburn because, like I said, I don't think Florida replicates the Tennessee game. And so I can't pick against Auburn in that scenario.
That wraps it up for our picks and analysis of Auburn, Florida. We'll be doing this for every single game. Blake has a point to mention here, so I'll let him get to it.
Well, because we got to mention bracket bids, because if you're high on the Tigers, high on the Gators, and you're going to fill out a bracket and take them all the way to the Final Four, well, you're welcome to do that because you can take your college hoops experience to the next level with bracket bids, enter into that free pick'em contest, or start an auction draft league. With friends, family, or coworkers, everyone starts with the same bidding dollars. You just got to outwit and outbid your league mates to secure the teams you think will go the distance. Don't forget, they got those upset bonuses, and they reward bold picks with those multiple scoring models they have. Track your teams with live in-game scoring. Watch the standings shift in real time. Further advance, the higher you climb the standings. Remember, use that promo code SE16 for 40% off in league play. SE16, 40% off. Download the BracketBids app today. And don't forget, on Saturday, our featured watch-along game of the week. What do you know? It's the Auburn Tigers against the Florida Gators. 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Watch it here. Join the It Just Means More tier. Hit that join button, and you can watch along with us on Saturday.
Also, yes, the join button is important. About 60% of you who are watching our stuff are not subscribed. If everybody that watches these regularly subscribed, that would really help our analytics, help us with advertising, all the things that we need to keep a business alive. So I would encourage you to do that. Anyway, thank you for watching. God bless you from Max Barr and Blake Lovell. This has been our preview of Florida and Auburn. All the other games coming in separate videos. We'll be back with those again very soon here at Southeastern 16.